Jens Stoltenberg, who is a former Prime Minister of Norway and is now NATO's Secretary General, recently addressed a joint meeting of Congress in Washington, D.C. What was he talking about? Well, he was talking up the threat of Russia, of course. If you didn't know, Trump plans to remove the United States from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty because Russia isn't complying. They're violating the agreement. Some commentators have pointed out that the US president wants out of the treaty for reasons other than those that have been publicly stated, namely to rebuild a stockpile of very dangerous weaponry and escalate things globally. Maybe the White House thinks Russia would back down in a new global arms race. It'd be too expensive for them to pursue. I don't know. Anyway, to some Stoltenberg quotes, we must overcome our differences now because we will need our alliance even more in the future. We face unprecedented challenges, challenges no nation can face alone. Well, you could make the same point when speaking in favour of a regional and political economic union, couldn't you? Like, I don't know, for instance, the European Union. Continuing, he said time was running out for Russia to return to compliance and, quote, NATO has no intention of deploying land-based nuclear missiles in Europe, but NATO will always take the necessary steps to provide credible and effective deterrence, unquote. I'm not sure whether NATO's leadership regards Donald Trump as a dangerous liability or as a useful idiot in NATO's game of brinksmanship with the Russian regime. NATO is 70 years old now. Imagine that, 7 decades. And yeah, still it has a lot of supporters among political elites in Europe and North America. Is NATO itself a threat to world peace? It's still expanding. Original 12 members now, with North Macedonia about to join. 30 members. We all know that the United States is the global hegemon, a hyperpower. An organisation like NATO exists to further US interests, and it's an insurance policy for European nations. But could it be a liability, given that there is a formal agreement between members that an attack on one would be considered an attack on all? Doesn't this make a regional conflict or a series of border skirmishes between, say, the Russians and the Baltic states more likely to lead to a world war? Yeah. A few miscalculations or aggressions in one area could have nasty global consequences, could it not?